So, when you think of SNK today, the first thing that springs to people's mind is usually going to be the Neo Geo or King of Fighters, Fatal Fury, some of the popular fighting games that SNK has become known for. But back in the 80s, when old folks like me first heard of them, it was with a game called Akari Warriors. Now, at this time, action movies were huge. This was the time of Rambo, of Stallone, Schwarzenegger, just dominating the action films. And, there was the big hit Commando. And then you had a video game called Commando, taking its inspiration from that. Akari Warriors then came out. Hey, this is doing good. SNK is like, we need to do our own version of it. And it was based more on Rambo. They had like the blue and red headbands, but where SNK innovated was with the controller. Because unlike Commando, unlike other games at the time, the controller had a knob on it. This became known as the loop lever, SNK's loop lever, that would allow you to move while you're firing, while you're throwing your grenades, and rotate your guy 360 degrees. So you could be shooting in any direction. That in itself wasn't like brand new because, you had games like Robotron earlier doing that sort of thing with a twin stick. I mean, this wasn't even SNK's first game utilizing a control method like this. That was with Tank 3. But Akari Warriors was a big hit for them. I remember growing up, like it was ubiquitous in arcades, like definitely not as big as other titles. But if you were someplace that had more than just a few games, that was more of an actual arcade, you were going to see Akari Warriors there. And it was fun. You could get in the tanks and go around, run over guys, all of that. It was very popular. And I think part of the reason of that popularity was because of the uniqueness of the loop lever on that. It added an extra dimension of control to it. While even though the game was hard as hell, it also left you feeling like you could do better than that. You just had to turn a little faster, to maneuver a little better. And I think part of that, at least psychologically, was thanks to the control scheme. Then in 87 came like the beat 'em up craze, all of that with Double Dragon. And games like Akari Warriors, they weren't seen as much. But SNK was still working on new games, and they came out with a spiritual successor to this in 1987 called Guevara in Japan, where you would player one would be Che Guevara and player two would be Fidel Castro, as you actually played through the Cuban Revolution and deposing Batista by the end of the game. Obviously this was not going to fly in the Western market. It's especially not in the US. So a few changes had to be made. And one of those was changing the title to Guerrilla War, making it not a celebration of the horrors of communism, which I don't think was their intention to begin with. From all accounts, they didn't even really know much about Guevara or the evils of communism. It was just like he had this book on guerrilla war. It made for a good game, so they went with it. But so for the US, they change it. So you're just a couple of dudes, unnamed dudes, trying to free yourself from an evil dictator. I always took it as, uh, kind of like almost like a Bay of Pigs kind of thing. Only the goal is to actually have it succeed, where you're actually trying to free the nation from communists rather than uh, being the communists. So that was guerrilla war, and in the U.S. And I remember the first time I saw this in the arcade, thinking, "Wow, this is awesome. It looks great. The sprites are big. The sound is awesome. It was a lot of fun to play. It was a lot more frantic than Akari Warriors, which you would expect, from the time with this being a successor to it. And there are different reports that I've heard. SNK, the official documentation says that it was released in 1987, and I absolutely believe Guevara was released in Japan in arcades in 1987. I have heard from different arcade operators here in the States that Guerrilla War, however, didn't make it stateside until 1988. And that I believe, because that lines up with when I remember seeing it arrive in my local arcade, in my local Aladdin's Castle, and being surprised that there was such a short time between seeing this game show up in the arcade that to there being an NES port of it available. But one of the cool things about it was, again, it was using that SNK loop lever for controls to move your guy around. And so this is something like, I love this game from the second I played it in Aladdin's Castle. I think it is one of SNK's most underappreciated games. I think it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to talk about a lot of this today during the gameplay, because we're going to go through everything that the Guerrilla War and Guevara have to offer, because we're going to go through all the versions. So first we're going to do Guerrilla War in the arcade, Guerrilla War for the NES, and we're going to see Guevara for the arcade, and Guevara for the Famicom. And I'm going to be comparing the differences between the two. You'll get to see the translations of the different story cards and a side-by-side comparison of that, so you can tell the differences that they actually made, bringing it from from Japan to the West. So now with the home ports especially, and this is, like I said, Akari Warriors has gotten a bit of a bad reputation for the NES port, because it wasn't that good. And some of that were the controls were pretty wonky with it. And it was kind of like, well, how could you really do that when the ability to rotate your guy was such an important part of the gameplay of Akari? And that's also true in Guerrilla War. But with Guerrilla War, they really seem to take the lessons that they learned from doing the port of Akari Warriors and put it into practice with the NES port of Guerrilla War, and it makes it super fun. It's definitely a lot more playable, and I think it's also an underappreciated port of that game, and I'm excited to really talk to you about that and share my memories during the gameplay of it, and what I think there, because there's a lot that surprises you. I haven't played through it in a very long time. You know, I still had it, it just sits there. I'm not getting played, but I really like it, and that wasn't an opinion that I had upon immediately getting it home and putting it in my NES when I was a kid. So I'm really looking forward to sharing kind of that story with you in this. But the NES version, that's one thing. It's easy to play the home ports of these games on whatever you have, whether it's the original hardware, whether it's emulation. You know, you can pick it up and you can play it easily. Guerrilla War, the arcade version, not so much. I like, it's been around forever, you know, like you could get it with emulation, but it's not the same without that controller. It's not going to be a very good experience. So I kind of given up on ever playing the arcade version again. Like maybe one day, you know, figure out that the rotating controller thing and get that going, and I'll be able to play it. And that was until a few years back. SNK released their 40th anniversary collection, which and that's out on multiple platforms. You can get it on Switch, on Steam, PS4, Xbox One. It's there. It's got like 25 games on it, all of like SNK's old arcade classics. Doesn't have like the fighting games and stuff, but it has Guerrilla War, it has Akari Warriors, that whole series in there. So it's a really cool collection. And one of the awesome things that they did with it is they reprogrammed the controls for Guerrilla War, for Akari Warriors, for today's purposes, especially for Guerrilla War. So you can use the analog sticks to rotate and shoot. So you still can recapture that old arcade game style of play and actually play it the way, you know, it should be, with the full controls. and they did a really good job with it, I think. And that is how I'm going to be playing these today. They everything is coming from the SNK 40th anniversary collection, because one of the coolest things about it, and this is actually like the entire reason I bought it, was not only does it have the arcade version of Guerrilla War, it also has the NES version of Guerrilla War. But beyond that, then you can change the region and you can actually play the arcade version of Guevara, the Famicom version of Guevara, all with the SNK 40th anniversary collection. And that's why I got it. Was so I could play Guerrilla War basically with something resembling arcade controls. This was before I started doing, obviously like the gameplay stuff, having my little uh arcade cabinet going where I normally play everything from. And now, because I still, even like, I have like the arcade joystick and everything, but it doesn't have that rotary thing. So I still couldn't play this the true way it meant to be played. Now, if you are into that and you do want the full experience of it, this is something that's really cool. Is GRS, or Thunderstick Studios, has a product called the GRS Super Joystick that they licensed from SNK, and it's like the Akari Warriors limited edition version, and it's $80, and you can get that, and you can actually plug it into your home arcade system and then play all the rotary games you want with it. So not only Akari Warriors, Guerrilla War, but then Heavy Barrel too. Probably others that I'm just drawing a blank on right now. I mean, like, not counting Tank 3 and all that. But I'm trying to think of the other stuff that isn't SNK besides Heavy Barrel, which was Data East. But now you could play those on that, and that's something I have thought about getting for my setup, but I'm still figuring out what I want to do with it. One of the things was, I'm like, oh, maybe I want to get 2 of those and then like theme it as a Guerrilla War cabinet, but I'm not sure. So I haven't gotten that yet. I haven't wanted to deal with it until I think of what I really want to do with it, and like how I want to set up my next control panel for it. I'm not going to go too much into that, at least not today. But the cool thing about this, if I did have it, is like the box it comes in, you could actually set it up to be its own like joystick. Apparently it's a heavy duty enough box to like screw the joystick into and actually use it as an arcade stick. And that's really cool. But it's also like, multi-platform. So it's not just for, like putting it in your home arcade. Like, it is kind of using, I'm not even entirely positive here on this. It says hybrid USB protocols. But it's apparently plug and play, and it includes the encoder, joystick, the push-pull joystick spinner knob, which I'm guessing is the loop lever controller. So if you could use that as a spinner knob, then I am definitely going to be getting one of these, putting it in, because that would solve a huge question for me on like how I want to configure a new control panel for my home arcade. But it is compatible with the Raspberry Pi, both 3 and 4. At least that's what it says on their website. I'm not sure about support for Pi 5 yet. I'm guessing that they will update that. It surprised me if there would be that much of a difference, but I'm not sure. So just going with what's confirmed on there. Raspberry Pi 3 and 4, Linux So you're set if you're running Batacera on a Raspberry Pi in a modded cab. Boom, good to go. It's also compatible with PC. So if you're running a mini PC in your cabinet, you're good there too. But this is the super cool thing that they've done with it is plug and play with the SNK 40th anniversary collection on both PC and Steam. So I guess it will need, you will have to do a firmware upgrade to enable that according to their website. But the fact that you could get this, and I'm playing the collection on the Switch today. So I according to this, I don't think that it would work with the Switch. If it's USB, maybe, but I kind of doubt it, or else I think it would actually say that. But if I was running it on my Steam Deck, then I could just boom plug it in and go. So I think that is super awesome, and I'm really happy that something like this actually exists for us to really be able to experience this the way it was in the arcades. But without that, the fact that SNK reprogrammed it so it works with dual analog sticks, and the controls work really well with it. Again, not the same as the arcade, but I think they did a fantastic job, and it's very, very playable. But that is uh, um, super awesome. I'll put a link in the description so you can check that out if you want. I'm not affiliated. I'm not sponsored in any way. I'm not getting anything for this. This is just something I think is cool that I kind of want. And would be very cool if you're into Guerrilla War, if that's one of your favorites like it is mine, and you really want that full experience. This is how to get it. So that's the only reason I am putting that out there is just to inform. That's kind of everything I like to do is about just, hey, this is out there. So I'm not getting anything for it, not shilling anything. Well, I am shilling one thing. And that's, if you do like what I'm doing and you do want to support my channel in some way, then you can always leave a super like on here, or you can check out some of the merch I'm selling. Now that YouTube gave me the ability to do that, I have some t-shirts for sale on the channel. I'm currently if any funds from t-shirts or super likes I get, I'm putting immediately towards a Sinden light gun setup. That's what that's what I'm shilling for right now, so I can get one of those and shoot that dog from Duck Hunt in the face. But that's it. And you're in no way obligated to do that. Just if you like it, if you like what I'm doing, then I mean, thank you anyway, and I really appreciate it. And don't feel any sort of obligation for that, but it is deeply, deeply appreciated when I do get any of those. I think it's awesome. But that's the only thing that I am selling from this. I do this for the love of the game, and that's all. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive in to our first game of the day, and that is Guerrilla War for the arcade, 1987 or 1988 from SNK. Hail the heroes of the revolution. Guerrilla War. Here we go. Yeah, look at the stars are red. That implies communism to me. We're trying to free the island from communism. The enemy AI in this is actually like really smart. They changed their tactics on you. It did a really good job. This is interesting. Huh. So normally there's a Jeep that drops guys off there, but they didn't come through. Huh. That's interesting. I'm not complaining. It's kind of annoying, but yeah. I'm gonna try to make as fast progress on this as I can. One of the big differences between the arcade and the console is like you do have limited grenades. You have the special weapons have limited use, and you have a fuel gauge on the tanks. Oh, here we have the. And the boss, oh, you have limited ammunition in the tanks as well. And the boss does not flip you off. Yeah, it's funny because I love this in the arcade. But I don't remember him like flipping me off in the original version. Of course, he's in the NES, but he doesn't flip you off, and like that's honestly what I played more. But yeah, I remember when this showed up in Aladdin's Castle, I was like, "Oh my god, this looks so cool!" I'm like, "This is like a new version of Akari Warriors, basically." Because I mean, the gameplay is similar. Like it looks similar, and obviously, like the loop lever controls were the same. Shit. Flamethrower, definitely the most powerful weapon in the game. Oh shit. Yeah, this is a short game, as most arcade games are. Um, there's like what, 5 stages? And one of the criticisms that the NES version, oh man, gets is, oh, it's too easy because of the unlimited continues. And yeah, it lets you beat it, but like it would be way too hard. Just not even like fun. It would just be frustrating if it wasn't for that. And something like, if you have the SNK 40th anniversary edition, they have a lot of great history about the games on there, and like bonus materials about like the production of them and stuff. And one of the things that they said, and I really appreciated this, was the idea for the home version, the home port, was uh, for people to play it and use it as practice for the arcade. and my thing was like that was what I always wanted for like a home system for arcade game ports. Was like I wanted to be able to play it and get good at it when I went and played it in the arcade. And I mean, I know probably like, well, how's that working out for you? I've seen your videos. You fucking suck. Some of these I haven't played in like 30 years. Come on. Yeah, I wasn't that good to begin with. So I'm not the best, but just the idea of practicing and getting better at them, and then going to the arcade and then actually doing better. I think that's what it's really, you know, these guys, thankfully, not in the not in the NES where they rebuild the barriers is so fucking annoying. Oh shit. He was just hiding now, didn't even notice him. I was too busy looking ahead. Oh. Yeah, we have an option to go in two ways. I think this way is a little faster. When you see Guevara, I went the other way in that, so we're going to go this way in Guerrilla War. But yeah, this was one like as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, okay, I love this game. And yeah, if you don't save the hostages fast enough, they will get killed. If not by you, by somebody. Fun fact I learned was that the reason they have your guy. Oh shit. Uh-oh. The sticking out the top of the tanks was because somebody did a bootleg of Ikari Warriors that they found out about, and I guess in the hack or whatever, they had screwed it up. So when you were in the tank in Ikari Warriors, it like the torso was still like sticking out of it, and I guess the programmer on Guerrilla War liked it, thought it looked pretty cool, and decided to actually put it in the game. And oh wow, we are at the capital already. This has gone fast. Come on. We're gonna have a bunch of these guys. Oh, I never noticed a paratrooper guys coming in before. All right, so this is a couple of firsts that we're seeing. The stage 1 mini boss Jeep didn't appear, and a plane with a couple of paratroopers came in. I've never seen that happen before. Wow. I'm just going. I don't even care. This stage, this is like bullet hell for running guns, and it's. There we go. Oh, what? Yeah, there's something empowering about just being able to rotate around, holding down the fire button, and go, fuck you. These bosses are kind of a pain in the ass. In the arcade, yeah, I remember I saw this. It was at Aladdin's Castle, and so here's the thing. Like, okay, Guevara came out in 1987. SNK listed like this is being released in '87 and everything. I don't think Guerrilla War was in the U.S. in 1987. I mean, maybe it was in like a few tests, but I don't think it was being widely distributed until '88. I have absolutely nothing to go on this aside from, like one, hearing a guy from TNT Amusements talking about it and saying, yeah, SNK says 87, but it was 88. And then my own recollections and how it would line up, because I know it wasn't until 1988 when this appeared in Aladdin's Castle. And it would have been kind of that summer, fall area of '88, and when it showed up. Now, if it was an independent operator, I would say, oh yeah, you know what, it definitely could have been out for a year before they got it, especially in the little college town I grew up in. But the thing is, it was Aladdin's Castle, and they would have new games. Like it was a chain. It wasn't just like somebody doing it in this small little place. That their whole thing was like they were always getting new games, and they weren't keeping pole position in there for until the late 90s because the owner liked it. They didn't play that way. So when this showed up, it was a new game, and it's one I never saw anywhere else aside from that specific Aladdin's Castle. But the reason I also think that it was 88 was because, like, all right, the NES port came out in 89, and I remember getting it, and it was going to be like shortly after it came out. Like, it was actually pretty new when it came out, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was actually surprised that this was a newer arcade game and there was a NES port already for it. So just gotta kind of get our asses kicked here so we start taking some of these jokers out. Yeah, he kind of looks like Jim Jones. Yeah, this is one like it wasn't that big of a hit, even though like it I think improved on the Akari Warriors formula. I mean, it's a lot easier, more frantic, but like the graphics are a massive improvement. And I still think Akari Warriors in the arcade look pretty cool, even at this point, even though it'd been out for a while. But this was like kind of the next level kind of thing. So, but yeah, it wasn't a big hit, and now like kind of looking into it, it seems like the NES version was like probably did a little better than the arcade, and that's not saying that the arcade was a failure or anything. It just I think it was at a time when games like this weren't were kind of on the decline in popularity. It was we're in the age of the beat 'em ups versus the running guns. What am I doing? I think I'm trying to use the NES tactics that don't work against these guys. There we go. All right. You get on the boat. Country is liberated from the king's domination. The leader is promoted to general in recognition of his great service. Game over. That's it. There we go. That is Guerrilla War for the arcade. Let's move on and check out the NES version. Here we are, Guerrilla War for the NES. Little intro saying what's up. And we'll just go ahead and start. The title screen looks pretty cool, I think. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and start one player mode. Unlimited grenades in this, whereas you have like 50 in the arcade, so you can just hold down both buttons and just spam them, especially if you don't care about the hostages. At least the bad guys cannot kill the hostages in the NES version either. That's all on you. Yeah, this was one, like I said, I loved this at Aladdin's Castle, and there was a certain game that I'd been saving for. So this came out in '89, and I was saving my money, looking for a certain game. I can't remember what it was. I want to say Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and then I kept buying, like, oh, did I hit something? I kept buying other games instead. Never got Punch-Out. But you know, mainly because when I saw this, and I remember this so much, like, just went to there was in this mall where I grew up, there was you know, we had Aladdin's Castle. That was the arcade in this mall, and then they had two toy stores. There was there was KB Toys and Circus World. And you know, obviously, like, Circus World was the best one for those little mall stores, like, hands down. And this was after the merger between the two. So you still had both stores, and they were like right next door to each other. Same ownership, but they hadn't yet changed everything to KB. It was still like Circus World branding on stuff, even though it was KB Toys. The receipt would say KB, all that. We can stay alive through this first boss. Oh. Oh, we were so close. Oh, man. So close. But yeah, I went there, and I think it was the same day I beat this in the arcade at Aladdin's Castle. I either way, I was so hyped on this game, and I go up to Circus World, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna check the games, and then they had them back behind the counter, you know, so it's like you're just kind of looking and like asking to see the games that you wanted. Come on. There we go. That fast? And there I saw Guerrilla War, and I'm like, what the? I'm like, that can't be, because it had not been in Aladdin's Castle that long, you know. And like I said, so I was pretty surprised to see a port. Oh shit. Okay, shoot the pigs. Alright, we're getting into that. We have like the power-ups are different letters. So T is the tracer, I believe, which is like a missile, but then when it hits, it does a spread. N is bonus points. S is a spread gun. L is rocket launcher. F is the flamethrower. B is bomb, where it's kind of like an upgrade for your grenades. Yeah. Hey, we still have the spreader? Pick that up. Alright, we're hanging around here too much. The people run around, the chickens, the pigs, the bikini ladies, that was all added in because they had extra memory at the end, so they thought it would be fun, which is why they're there. I was just running around in that pit, and then these guys show up. What the hell? Yeah, I go up, and first I'm like, okay, the art's the same, you know. It has that cover art with the train on the bridge and everything, and that's, you know, like the boss here that we're gonna be dealing with. And I'm like, okay, can I take a look at that? I'm like, all right, this is the same game. And, you know, it was one of those things like, okay, Akari Warriors. I'm like, well, I wouldn't get that because I know it's not going to be very good, just because of, you know, the controls. That was the uniqueness of it. And to kind of take that out of it would take away of the uniqueness of the game. And oh shit, I thought I could get through there before it all went tits up. Got our next boss battle coming up here. Much easier to deal with when you have a powered up weapon. And I look at it, I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, Guerrilla War, the graphics are going to be less. That's okay. This is the game. I want the game. And like I said, you know, I knew about like the loop lever and Akari Warriors. I'd been playing the hell out of this. It's like I knew the loop lever, but I didn't anticipate it. Yeah, like it was one of those things. I'm like, yeah, I'm like fucking 10, 11 years old, whatever. So you know, easily justified making that mistake. But when it just didn't dawn on me that would make that big of a deal. And then when I got it home, I was so excited. And then I put it in, and I was disappointed. And I'm like, oh man. I was very disappointed with myself. I'm like, I bought into the hype. You know, I was just too excited for this game. I didn't stop to think if it was any good or not. And then like later, you know, you read reviews and it got pretty panned. I mean, some of that for, you know, having continues, for it being like one of the easy games. But if you were playing it with the idea of trying not to have the continues, it's pretty hard. But the continues were nice because it gets so crazy that this would just be a nightmare without that. So yeah, I was pretty disappointed with the graphics at first, and you know, I played it and just the look, and it's like, I don't, what was I expecting? You know, I mean, I knew it was going to be a downgrade from the arcade. I don't know, I was just expecting the guy to be a little bigger, I guess, and just to pop a little more. Whereas to me, it's like, this was just, you know, like the Akari Warriors port done right. Yeah. And still like fun with two players. You just go through and blast everything. And you know, I mean, I still played it. It was Guerrilla War. And, you know, part of it was like, I wanted to get better at it in the arcade. Ironically, I hardly ever played it in the arcade after this. Yeah, I played a little more, but I'd already cleared it in the arcade, and now I had the home version. So then it was like, well, what's that? And it was also kind of hard because like the graphics were so much better. It was a disappointment. But the thing is, I did like enjoy this game, and I'm like, okay, I know it's not the same. So I did come around to it, where it's like, one, because, you know, I'm a 10-year-old, I just spent a bunch of money on this game. Like, you know, the games were something like I chose very carefully, and for that reason, if there was like a question, like, you rent it first, you know, or you go by like, you know, friends, you borrow it, you'd rent it, you'd get opinions from it somewhat, like never fully, but like you kind of trust, you know, you could kind of more or less trusted magazines back then. Not GamePro, never GamePro. Aside from like, well, yeah, this is a new game that's coming out, but like they were so bad about the payola even back then. Like it was like, you know, 11-year-old kid, I could see through that shit. Whereas like you guys are giving this, like, you know, their ratings were just all fucked, and you could tell it was like, yeah, they're getting paid for it. So like even Nintendo Power, which you expect to be biased because Nintendo, like, it trusted their reviews a lot more. Oops. But the more I played this, like the more I liked it, and the more I appreciated it for what it was. And it's been a long time since I've played this. And I'm going back, I'm playing it now just because I wanted to make this video. And I'm glad I did, because I'm seeing it, I'm like, I like the NES version better than I do the arcade. It's more fun. And I'm also like noticing stuff that I never really noticed before. And like these explosions are some of the best on the NES. Like, it's really good. It's actually technically, I think, really impressive what they did with this game to have so much happening on the screen at one time. And it doesn't really slow down. There's like a couple of spots where it does, a couple of spots where you get flicker, but it's not bad. Like, they did a really good job programming this. And that's something like I wouldn't have been able to appreciate at the tender age of 10, you know? But now going back looking at it, I'm like, oh no, this is actually, you know, definitely better than the arcade. It's a lot more fun. Yeah, and they did stuff. So it's like the idea was like, yeah, we want you to spend the money in the arcade. We know it's unfair because the arcade games are there to extract your money. And this, well, they already extracted your money. Now they have to give you value. Oh, shit. Yeah, they did a really impressive job. Like there was a lot of care, I think, put into doing this that you wouldn't realize back then. And I don't think a lot of people did. And I mean, like I said, especially with the nature of the game being an arcade port, it doesn't have a lot of depth, you know. It's not that kind of a game, and I think that's one of the challenges with going from arcade to a home system is like the markets are so different. Where it's like you're at home, it's not. And like I said, yeah, I was one of the, I wanted to practice and get good at the arcade. And at the same time, you know, with the console, you wanted to feel like you got your money's worth. You wanted to feel like you were getting something special. I also think the music is a lot better on the NES than the arcade. I think you get a better variety. Bosses are less frustrating. They are. It's definitely a battle, but it's not like a just oh shit. All right, well I better just make sure I have enough quarters in my pocket. Yeah, to beat them. It actually, you know, you can actually beat them. And it's got humor in it too. So like this is in the arcade. It's like these guys come out and they just chuck you. It's like, what the fuck? That's pretty awesome. Like it cracks me up. And then you get the underground, like this. And this was definitely something that I didn't appreciate, how technically impressive it was at the time. Here to have Mode 7 graphics essentially on the NES. And, you know, they put this bonus stage in, and they're just rotating the screen. It really doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but I can't think of any other game that attempted to do something like that on the NES and then like actually pulled it off. And like that's pretty creative, and that's really cool. I really appreciate how they did that. Ah, shit. There we go. The boss music is really good in the NES too. I mean, I just they did everything right, and then they improved on the game, and it still, like, you know, it's still a simple arcade game, but if that's like what you want, like that's what you get. And it's not trying to be anything else. It's like, yeah, we know this isn't going to be graphically as good as the arcade. Controls are going to be different. What can we do to still make it fun, and, you know, make sure, like, you know you're playing the same game. It's different, but it's still the same thing that you thought you were getting on the package. And I think they did absolutely fantastic job with it. And yeah, I like this better than the arcade, and I gotta say, and that's kind of surprising, as for as long as I've wanted to like go back and play through the arcade properly, you know, with like controls that worked. And here you can, and I'm like, wow. Now that I've played these side by side, I like the NES better. It's one of those, like, you feel like you can actually do better with it, and I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised how well things have been going for me through the game. All right, so the C is a clearing bomb. So when you do that, it wipes everything out on the stage. I thought I was going to die there, so I used it too soon. Then you get another one that is, I think, the K, which automatically clears everything. And I think that's funny. You know, you can have them all lined up, and it's SNK. Definitely a longer game than in the arcade. I haven't been rushing through it as much as I probably could have. But yeah, I definitely like underappreciated. I mean, I think it was back then. Again, like I said, some of that is with just the nature of the game, the fact that these sort of running guns weren't as popular at that point as they had been. Can we get past that? Yes. Those guys. Oh man, had a pretty good run going there. Hey, got an extra life and immediately lost it. Those guys are spinning around like Timmy in Whitest Kid You Know sketch playing Call of Duty. And like, this is one where, like, okay, the boss fight is just tons of guys coming out at you, and you're gonna get flicker, but like, look at how many fuckers there are on the screen at once. That's nuts. So yeah, you're gonna be expecting to slow down. All right. I'm just running through this. Yeah, I think this is still like one of the more affordable cartridges you can get. And, you know, what's weird is like, okay, people seem to remember or just not talk about it all that much. Like, it wasn't a super popular game. I like the only time I saw it in the arcades. Well, I might have seen it like one other time, like on vacation somewhere. Uh, but the only time I saw it in the arcade was at that, you know, my hometown Aladdin's Castle. And the only time I saw it, the NES in the store was at the Circus World at that same mall. So, and the thing is, nobody that I knew like really remembered it. Nobody had the title. I never saw it to rent. Nobody really paid attention to it in the arcade. You know, like it was just good. What? No, I haven't played that one. And or then maybe they did and they thought it was a Akari Warriors. I don't know. But yeah, just not a lot of fanfare. And like it was easy to be one of those, you know, like, oh no, it's not the best port. Yeah, and I was like that for a long time, and now I'm kind of like, no, it's actually a really good port, and it actually. All right, here's the Jeep from stage 1 that we didn't. We'll get him now. He's making a beeline to the palace. Pause all that flicker. So yeah, when I would see this game for sale, I'm like, oh, cool. You know, I actually seen another Guerrilla War besides my copy somewhere. And it would always be, you know, like one of the cheaper ones. And, you know, I would say like it's kind of, because it is like it's a quick playthrough. But I think if you do love the arcade version, or you want a good running gun on the NES, like I can't think of really a better one in this style, you know, than Guerrilla War. That I would really want. Definitely hands down better than Akari Warriors. Like I said, it's like they knew they learned their lesson from that port, and they did everything really well. All right, so those guys there aren't going to throw us anymore. They're gone. Whew. Now we just got to get to the palace for the final showdown. Hey, no, see, I'm wearing blue. Where does he think he's going? All right. Now, like, yeah, this. I think this was the other thing. Like, as hard as the boss was in the arcade, it was also kind of unfair because there wasn't really anywhere that you could get where you wouldn't be shot. And so they had to make some changes here at the NES, but it's also like it is possible to avoid. Well, I'm not that I'm doing that great of a job of it. And I'm not even sure if that hurts him. Like, if you're shooting him before the you take out the turrets. But yeah, he's still a happy camper. Smiling to the end. So there we go. Damn. I managed to get him without using that last continue. And like even with the continues, there's something still satisfying about beating it. And you get like he's not hopping on the boat and getting away. No, you take him out. You get the nice ending graphic too. And I think like the best part of this is like the end is definitely better than the arcade. The music is better, but then here like this credit sequence is awesome. Like you even get them jumping away from the explosions. It's a nice action sequence in the credits. So. But there you have it. Guerrilla War on the NES. Okay, that was Guerrilla War in the arcade and the NES. So now we're going to go into Guevara from the arcade and for the Famicom. And don't worry, I won't be talking over those. Those will just be straight silent playthroughs. But before we do that, I am going to show you the different cutscenes between the two versions, the US and the Japanese version, and you'll be able to see the differences. I've ran them through Google Translate, so it's not perfect, but you'll get the idea of the differences that they made for the localization of Guerrilla War and what the original Guevara game had in it. So I hope you enjoy that. And then after that, we'll go into Guevara for arcade and Famicom, where you will be able to see the non-Google translated cutscenes if you want to watch through that. So here we go. Here are the differences. Enjoy. Okay, so there you have it. The complete comparison between Guerrilla War and Guevara for both the arcade and the Famicom, all on the SNK 40th anniversary collection. Very cool. So check that out. And thank you for watching. I hope this has been informative. Um, let me know your memories of Guerrilla War. Did you play it in the arcade? Is that where you first played it, and then went and got the NES port of it, or did you only play it on the NES? It seems to be more common than people that played it in the arcade or discovering it on the NES first. So let me know. Let me know what you've thought about it. Let me know if your opinion over the years has changed, like mine, where I definitely found a new appreciation for the NES version and everything that it does. And I have to say, I like it better now than the arcade version. The arcade is still fun, but I think like the changes that they made for the NES and to handle a console differently than the arcade, which, you know, I mean, they have different purposes. You know, they're both there to entertain. They're both games, but one is there to extract money from you one quarter at a time, and the other is there to give you bang for the buck that you've already spent. And I think that they did a terrific job with the NES port, and that's funny because I remember when I got it way back when in '89, I I was a little disappointed with it. I still had fun with it. I still played the hell out of it, but I was disappointed. I knew that there was going to be a graphical downgrade. I wasn't expecting it to be as much as it was, but I didn't understand kind of like things that were going on in that game like I do now, and like appreciating the explosions in it, um, and the humor that they put in with like the pigs and the ladies running around, and I think that overall they took what they did and they made a very solid port of it that took everything that the arcade did right and improved on it to give you a better experience at home. And yeah, I'm surprised, but I like it. I like it better on the NES. So uh, I did not see that coming. But let me know what you think, and yeah, please like and subscribe to my channel. Check out some of the merch I have for sale too. If you want to support the channel and look cool while doing it, I have t-shirts and things, or so check all that out. And thank you so much for watching through all of this and checking out the different comparisons. I really wanted this to be comprehensive because I think that there is so much that is easy to miss out on uh, between different versions, different ports, especially when there's an arcade and a home console port, and then when you're having to make big changes for the localization like they did here, so you're not supporting terrorists. But thanks again, and I will see you all next time.